Welcome to the July meeting of the Houston.NET Users Group. Our featured speaker this month is Razi Syed, and he'll be talking to us about .NET reports. You're welcome to join us in person for pizza, prizes, and networking on the second Thursday of every month. Our meetings are hosted by Improving Houston in their office at 10111 Richmond Avenue, just inside the Beltway in Houston's West Chase District. You can check us out for meeting notifications at HDNUG.org, on Facebook, or on LinkedIn. And now, a word from our sponsor, Unifier.
Unifier offers quality UX and UI design via professional designers. Unifier can perform application security testing through a variety of mechanisms by experienced, certified ethical hackers. Unifier also offers offshore consultants in all areas of Microsoft development and quality assurance resources. Give us a call today at 281-671-6630.
And now for our featured speaker, Razi Syed.
Okay, so as you all know, my name is Razi Syed, and what we're going to do is talk about .NET Report today. So Microsoft, of course, is a great tool to write code, and Microsoft also provides a lot of different things in .NET for reporting. It has a built-in SSRS system. There are other systems also like Telerik or Infragistics, but a lot of those, they focus on developer side, where the developer has to write a stored procedure or write the code or hand code every report by itself. So what .NET Report is something different. What it does is it lets the end user create an easy, intuitive reports by just adding some code to your C#. So it has a lot of built-in infrastructure already that lets you do that. Some of the key features are that it's, like I said, it lets your end users create their own reports. And then it's very easy to integrate into a new or existing C# application. So it's built with MVC and Bootstrap and stuff that we're used to coding in. So I guess I talked a little bit about the background here, where other tools like SSRS are geared again towards developer to hand code things, and it's also not very easy to embed it in the front end code, whereas .NET Report is geared towards solving that other issue. Okay, so what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and start by opening up Visual Studio. Okay, and with this presentation, what we'll do is the first thing. Actually, let me see if we want to go to the next slide first. Okay, so there's one more overview thing that I want to talk about. There are three components of the solution. One is the administration side, where you set up your schema and stuff to let .NET Report know what your database structure is. And then there is a front-end wizard that I keep talking about. And then the final piece is a back-end service engine that that can be hosted on-prem or on cloud, which talks to the front end and gets you your SQL statements back. Okay, so for this demo, what we'll do is basically go through a new application and set up .NET Report and see how easy it is. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and start a new start a new project, and we'll just use a standard web application, and we will choose MVC. Okay. Okay, so this is just your empty web application. By default, Microsoft puts up a home controller for you and the view. Everybody knows that, right? It's with Bootstrap, so if I run it, it would just be, I don't know why my computer is so slow. It's supposed to be faster than this. It's because it's a developer. It's supposed to be fast. Anyways, while that's spinning up, so to install .NET Report, all you do is you go to install NuGet package. I know people like to do it through the console. I like the UI. So I'm going to go search for it. And here's the NuGet package. And I'll hit install. And what it does is it brings the complete front-end code in here, which has the UI and the controller and all the code, JavaScript code in here. And it's all pretty much open source, so it gets added directly into your project. Okay, so So you see, instead of the home controller, now we have the .NET Report controller as well, and then it added the views for it also. Another thing that it does is that to hook it up to an actual account where you can, define your schema and stuff, you have to actually set up a cloud account on the service end, which is okay. So to do that, you have to go into the online .NET Report and website and basically register for it. It's a very simple one-form page where you can just register and get the keys out of it. I already have obviously a registration and I kept my keys here, so I'll just simply copy and paste it in there. If I run the application without the keys,
can you increase your font size?
Oh, sure.
You would have trouble reading your keys.
Oh, it's recorded, so don't worry.
I can probably edit those out.
I mean, it doesn't matter, honestly, because they're not,
You can expire them.
Yeah, exactly, and they're just.
So what's the purpose of those keys?
Okay, so when you install it, the thing is that it adds the connection stuff to your web config. There are 3 keys that you need: your public API key and the data connection and the private API keys. Let me just paste it here, and then I'll explain those later, okay? In a little bit. And then another thing that you need
They're
is.
GUIDs.
Huh? Yeah, they're GUIDs, exactly. So, yes. You also need, connection string to your database, which I'm gonna paste in here. And this one is just to my local host, so you don't need. Doesn't matter if you record that. Okay, so. So when I run this, I can just basically browse to the .NET Report controller. And so what I connected with the GUIDs was basically the online demo keys that basically already has some stuff set up. So it automatically takes you directly and it shows you all the, yeah, go ahead.
Finish and then I'll ask my question.
No, go ahead.
What if I want to change the name of the controller? Can I do that?
Yes, if you really want to, because it's all in here in your code, but it's basically the .NET Report controller is right here, so if you really want to change it, yes, you can change the name of the controller. Okay. So just to back up a little bit, let me show you how the online account works. Let me go ahead and actually log in here to show you the. So when you register the backend schema, basically the backend system, basically you go in and you add a data connection, which is what I have over here. So it already has. I mean, you can go in and you can set up your database tables and fields and information over here.
So you expose the data to that?
No. So that's the whole thing that. Okay. The database is all in your local environment, okay? So your connection is here, your connection is safe. All it knows is how your schema looks like. And the way it basically does that is you can define it by hand over there, like the interface that I just showed you over here, or you also have an admin setup in the local environment. I guess I jumped into the report first. The first step is to actually go in and set up your database. So the connection string that I basically plugged in, it connects to your database and brings out all the different tables and columns and stuff from your database directly in here. And you have this interface where you can check and say which fields you want to choose and use in the report. So the system basically, that's how it knows how your schema is supposed to be done.
Does it expose all the fields, or can you have some fields that are not visible?
So it brings out all the database fields from your database, and you can check and choose which one you want to use in the report. So for example, if you want to not use customers, then you can uncheck it and it won't show up. And if you choose customers, then you can choose specific fields that, like, let's say you just don't you don't want to use facts, so you can uncheck which fields you don't want to use, and you can basically save that, and then it would not expose that to it on the reporting system.
And this page hosts on your local IS.
This is exactly on your local IS, right? And the whole code is over here too. So it's basically completely on your local environment.
So what's the purpose of connecting those keys?
So the keys, basically what it does is it lets your service, when you save this, when you choose your database fields and columns, and you hit the save button, it uses that keys to save that schema information on the cloud.
So you expose the schema.
You kind of expose the schema, yes, not the data. So what happens is that when I come in here and sorry, go ahead, you had a question?
The account that this control is used to connect to the database, does it have to be an admin on the server, right? A system admin or comprises?
Right, so because you're running it locally in your environment right now, that's why I have access to it, but right, in general, you don't want your end users to have access to the setup part of it. You only need them.
You need at least read schema permissions. Do you need anything above read schema?
On the setup page, it's just for the developers themselves, so you don't need anything on there. I mean, when you're running it locally, I mean, you basically have all the access that you need. But once you actually are running the report, you just need to return the you just need to be able to get the data and execute the SQL statement.
How would you set up the region files?
Okay, so let me quickly go through the one report real quick, and then we can talk about that, okay? So creating a report is pretty straightforward. Once you have this, the system knows your schema. Actually, let me put a breakpoint here also to show you what it does. So what happens is once you have your schema set up, you can choose different sections down here. So for example, I had employee selected there, so employee shows up over here, and all the fields show up, and the user can just simply check on which fields they want the first name, last name, and let's say they want the date of birth.
How do you control order?
You can drag and drop. You can drag and change the order layout. Okay, so there are a lot of built-in features in it. I'm just going to go over a very simple, basic report right now, just to show you how it works.
How do you control sorting?
Employee list. Okay.
What's the report?
I mean, you could group and summarize and.
Right, you can do all of that. Yes, yes.
So we have it always out of the box, right?
So we're kind of, yes, it comes completely out of the box. Okay, so what happened was that as soon as I hit the save and run statement, it collected everything that you had. We can look at the JavaScript code also, but it basically collected everything and it ran a JavaScript code to the server, and that basically returns a SQL statement. And it comes back as a gibberish encrypted statement, and you basically decrypt it using your key on your end, and then it turns into a basic SQL statement. Okay, so everything that you just selected, the whole point was that the JavaScript code sends an AJAX request to the server. The server takes what you selected, creates a SQL statement, and sends it back. Okay, and then what you do is you use the C# code is already built in here that brings out your connection key, and it basically connects to your SQL on your local environment, and it runs the. Yes, go ahead.
So you said that the SQL is encrypted. So the SQL statement is actually sent to the client?
The SQL statement is sent back, yes, as an encrypted gibberish, and then you decrypt it right here.
So what algorithm are you using for encryption?
It's basically it's a simple, I think it's called the Rajni, it's basically a base64 encryption. It's, using the crypto screen. So this right here, if you, it's the regional managed encryption method. If you want to use something else, we can, you can always change it. But anyways, okay, so all the service returns is basically the SQL statement that gets run completely in your environment. It connects to your database right here, and it executes the SQL command right here. It fills the data in adapter, and it basically generates the report for you. Okay, so that's basically the overall structure of it. Now, obviously, just returning a simple list and creating a simple SQL command is not very fancy. I mean, it's a start, but it does a lot of other things that comes out of the box, and we have a lot of advanced features that we can go on to next. But I just want to make sure everybody is on the same page and understands the basic concept of how this thing works.
Can you edit how all these come out?
Yes, I mean, obviously this is all front-end code in your environment, right? So you have your view, so you can see what it's doing, right? All it came back with was a SQL statement, and it executed the SQL statement, and then the viewer and the controller takes care of how it is formatted and stuff. So if you want to change something, it's right here in .NET Report, and this is the report view, and the entire code is right here, so you can change.
So can you tweak that?
Yes, you can tweak that if you want to.
What about, can it be coupled on premises, or is it just really has to come?
So your service can definitely be hosted on premises also, right? So, the service that it can be completely on-prem. It doesn't have to go to the cloud to do that. The way to do that is basically in your web config, you see this is your API URL, and this is the service request that it sends to get the SQL statement generated and come back. You can easily host this on-prem, and then this would just be local host.
So then you go for the keys.
You generate the keys locally also. Right. Okay? Okay, so everybody's kind of on the same page on how the overall architecture is before we move on to some more cool features.
Yeah.
Any confusion?
The cloud is only used to generate the SQL.
Right, the service, exactly. The service is only used to generate the SQL statement, yes. So, I think the service installs the JavaScript code is here too.
And what if your syntax or SQL's wrong?
That's the service's job, right? Like, it creates.
Then it's a bug.
Then it's a bug, yes.
Yeah.
Then it's a bug.
So how do you protect against SQL injection?
So, again, the whole thing is completely run in your environment, right? So when it actually is talking to the service, the stuff comes back encrypted, and when you C# decrypts it and write in the next statement, it completely runs it. So unless somebody hacked your service and it's sending.
Well, by that time, if they can do that, you're probably already.
Yeah, exactly. So it's pretty secure. Okay. Okay. So any other questions before we move on to some other features?
You did this with MVC. So does it work with web forms as well?
Yes, there is a web form NuGet package also that has the front-end code in web form. So like when I went to install NuGet package, it had, stop this guy. But yeah, there is a NuGet package for front-end web forms also. So it installs the ASPX code.
You have web form support? You have web forms?
Web form support, yes. Unfortunately, people still use it. But see, the thing is that, the front end is basically all Bootstrap and JavaScript and Knockout, right? And all you have is, so you can use it in web forms. You don't even need C# really for a lot of these, the front end stuff, because the front end is not, all it's using is tools like, front end tools like Knockout and jQuery and Bootstrap. So that's what the front end is built on. Your UI can just be a HTML page, and then your backend is really, your service is where it executes the SQL, where C# is mostly used.
What if all your reports require a standardized heading for our local environment?
So, again, the answer is the same thing, that, because you have access to front end, you can just go and slap a banner or something or whatever you need on top of every report, right? I mean, it's just a change in the C# code in the view, right? The concept is that the service returns a SQL statement to you, and then it processes it locally in your code, which the NuGet package is installed on for you, and you can change it if you need to. Yes?
Why do you need an external service to generate SQL query? Why could they not open source that service too?
Yes, the answer to that is to make money.
That's how we're generating. It's not free.
There is a free version, yes, but it has limited API calls. So the free version lets you, it's the on-cloud version only. Yes, but the enterprise version, when you do on-prem, that's proprietary.
How much?
So there's basically, you can do the enterprise on-premise.
You can do the enterprise on-prem, yes, completely on-prem. Yes.
How much?
The pricing, it starts at $500 annually, and for, there are different licensing packages. Ahmed is the guy to talk to about.
But let's talk about the free version, because
Yes,
I like free.
exactly. Let's talk about that.
Who likes free?
So any other questions before we continue?
What doesn't the free have?
I mean, people use it. It's, we'll get to the, and of course,
How many calls can you make with the free?
there is a limit. I think there is a 2,000 API call limit or something like that.
A day or a month?
Monthly,
2,000 a month?
something like that.
What's
Yeah.
free about it?
Okay, so so let's get back to, like I was saying that, okay, I think I stopped it, so that's why.
We distracted you.
You distracted us. That's it. Okay, so what I was saying is that, just selecting a few fields and returning a SQL statement to run it is pretty cool, but it's not, the best thing in the world, right? I mean, it doesn't do a whole lot. So what this comes out of the box is, it comes out with a lot of exciting features that are, it takes time to code, and it comes right out of the box that's installed right directly into your code. Okay, so for example, one of them is date filters. So if you have a date field, the system automatically gives you pretty cool filtering options, right? So you can choose equal to on a date, and then it would give you a calendar. If you choose between, it would give you 2 calendars to give a date range. If you choose a range, then it will give you cool stuff like this week, last month, right? So it's got this built in. And if you look at the inspector, you can see the code is straight up knockout. I don't know how many of you guys love knockout. Only one? You kidding me?
Yes.
Okay. Anyways, so it's all right here if you want to modify or add more or change anything.
Knockout is so much cleaner and easier
So much
to
cleaner.
read
See, I mean, look at this
and
code,
easier
right?
to do than Angular.
Beautiful, right? All it's doing is that if you have,
And what did you say? It's easier than Angular?
it 100% is.
Yes.
Yes.
Don't get me started on Angular.
Angular is very powerful,
I'm not a
but
coder, I was just.
Yeah, Angular does too much. I mean, Knockout is just for UI only, and it's clean, and it's MVVM, and it just
Yeah.
simply gives you what you need.
Angular is a lifestyle choice.
Yes, it definitely is. It definitely is. It's too much. Okay, so that's the date filter. There is also a filter on the fly option, right? So you can actually build in filter right into your report. So when you run it, okay, I put a breakpoint here again to show you that it returns
And
SQL.
every day new features come out.
Not every day, but every few weeks, yes. So this one is, I think, a little bit more complicated SQL that it plugs in your date filter like this right here, right? And it also has a group in there? No grouping. Okay, we'll get to grouping. Okay.
Dynamical generic SQL, so it's kind of like small, because it's not a precompiled SQL, so it's
Right, but see, that's the whole advantage, that you can do a lot more on the fly rather than building stored procedures. That's what the other solutions are for, that you build stored procedures and have pre-compiled SQL that you can run on the server. But it limits you a lot, because you can't have your end user change things on the fly, right? I mean, that's what the whole concept of this product is. It's completely different from what SSRS and others do with pre-built reports.
Are you able to optimize the SQL queries?
Say that again?
Are you able to optimize them, let's say,
I mean, the system builds a SQL statement for you, so I mean, I don't know if you're that good that SQL that comes in, you can analyze it and change it, but I mean, most of the reports are, I mean, it works pretty fast. But anyways, so this one was a group report, and what I was talking about with this filter on the fly is that you can just change it right here, and you can do last month or this year, and then you can refresh your report, and it will update the SQL statement and run it with.
For this to run, your servers have to be up.
The service has to be up because, again, every time you run this, it makes an AJAX call to the service, and the service figures out what parameters you plugged in, and it returns a SQL statement back to you, and it gets executed on your end.
If I buy the license or what have you.
Yes.
Are there limitations then?
No, I mean, there are different license levels. The only limitation really is with the on-prem one, because the on-prem is, is different. Okay. So that's one of the features that comes out of the box that is pretty neat. I mean, there are charts and stuff that are there. It uses Google Charts to do that, but that's not one of the biggest things. The other thing is the grouping of report and let's see, what was the other one? So server-side sorting and server-side paging is something that's really cool that's built into the system also. Okay, so for example, let me go back and run this report again, which gives me this year's, all the orders in this year. So drill down is something that's, a complicated feature. You have to write a sub-report and things like that to do it. With this, you can build it on the fly by just every group report comes with a plus sign next to it, and when you expand it, it gives you all the different rows that were used to build the total or the subtotal in here. And you can also see that it uses server-side paging, so that's why it's really fast and it never gets like, this one has 253 records. Sometimes your report might summarize thousands and thousands of records, and if you expand it, you don't want to overload your server and bring down thousands of records on the JavaScript end. So what it does is, in fact, it actually pages it for you and just brings 10 records at a time. And so you can actually go to the next page and it has server-side paging built into it, which is a pretty cool feature. You can also do sorting, which does it amongst all the pages on the server. It's not just the view that you see. So that's something that comes in built into the system. Okay, besides that, another cool feature is so yeah, the drill down. I'm sorry, what?
Can you export that as a PDF?
You can export that as an Excel, which actually brings down all the 253 records. So, okay. Oops, that's an oops.
This presentation.
It always happens, right? But anyways, you can...
If that didn't happen, we wouldn't believe you were doing it live.
Exactly, right? Anyway, so, but yeah, when you export to Excel, it brings all the different records down, and you can, do things in Excel if you want to. PDF thing, you can actually print to PDF, so I think there is a PDF button too. I think I added it at some point.
I think we should. That's a good idea.
Actually, it is, I think when you print it, you can print it to PDF. So you have a workaround there, right? So you can always save as PDF and it lets you do that. Okay. So besides that, anybody has any questions?
So where are these reports saved? On your cloud? On the free version?
Yes, so it is always saved on the cloud, right? So everything that you do with the, when you're setting up the relations of the tables and all, that's where the API keys are used, and it basically saves it to your account that this is your schema, these are the reports that you use, and it gets saved there.
Is it saved by user or department? Or?
So you can actually do that. There is a feature where you can separate it by client. If you don't provide any, okay, there is another feature here where you can provide the client ID on the, that was actually the next one I was going to talk about anyways. So that's a good thing you mentioned it. So in here, you can pass your authenticated user ID or your authenticated client ID in here. So the system is assuming that you have your own login mechanism where you save your authenticated user's information in a cookie or somewhere, and then you can pass it to the system here. So you can either do it by client ID level, which is the company level, or by a particular user level. And then when it saves it, it will save it for that user and save it for. So when you are logged in, only your reports will show up, not everybody's report will show up. If you don't provide these, then it's global and everybody will.
So I don't have to use the machine I made it. I can use it for any machine once I log in.
Yes, yeah, you can definitely use it for different logins. Yes, you can split it that way. Okay.
Can my users do what ifs?
What ifs? No. You can code it if you want to.
No, but I mean, can I make a report where the user changes the value and he sees what the report, the report changes?
Well, the report would look like if say a sales figure was different.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what that means.
That means,
It's what if analysis in Excel.
yeah.
No, I don't think we have that yet. You can code it. Yes.
So let's say developers embedded this into their application.
Yes.
And different users within the company start using the system.
Yes.
Can each user customize their own reports and their own settings that are only available to them, or is this?
Yes, exactly. That's what the user ID field is. That when they log in and they log in with the same authentication token that you pass through here, then it will only show their reports, whatever they've saved.
Another question is, you show a lot of features that are available out of the box.
Yes.
What kind of functionality do you expect the developers to add?
Right. So front end. Okay. So let me. We have. Let me show you the. So everything is on Git. Go down to GitHub. So what happens is that whenever the front end is, since it's completely open source, the whole code is available on GitHub, and the JavaScript code is there. So this is basically the main application is right here. The views and the JavaScript code that does everything is all over here. So what we do is every time we have something new, we have a feature branch going, and users can also do their own push requests to create new features on the front end. Now, the restriction is that it is only on the front end where you can add new stuff. So like, let's say you want to add a new report type that uses the word, or maybe a line chart, that because we have certain reports that are already available here. The report types, like there is a bar pie, because it uses the front end library, uses the Google Charts library, and they have like 15 different other bubble chart is there, or I don't even know what it's called, but you know what I'm talking about? The funnel chart is there and stuff like that. So if you want to add something like that on the front end on your own, once you understand how the SQL statements work and how it returns data, you can add that to the code easily. Another thing is how the report formatting is done, right? I mean, so if let's say you want to create an invoicing report, like a report that creates an invoice, so all you would have to do is take the front end view where it runs the report and it goes through each of the. So this is where the actually it's, I think, in the layout file.
Did you say there was a dashboard to select from all your reports?
There is a dashboard also, yes. So there is a layout file for the report right here, and then it has the template for the each rows, right? So for what it does is that if you understand knockout and you know how that works, all it is just some view for knockout, and you can change it so that it lays out in an invoice rather than a table. So you can definitely make any kind of changes on the front end that you want.
Can I run a bunch of reports as a group?
You can run a bunch of reports as a group, yes. That's what the dashboard is. So let me go to the next one, which is / dashboard. That's the next controller. Okay. So it's running basically 3 different reports, and it laid it out as a dashboard. Bless you. And so yes, you can run it as because see, it's all AJAX calls, right? So you can run AJAX call for one report, or you can run it for multiple ones. The way the dashboard is.
Can I just push a button and 20 reports run automatically?
You can code it definitely, because it's all front end stuff. I mean, you can use this code to see how it's done. Because if I look at the dashboard controller, which is going to be right here, the dashboard action. So all it does is basically it goes through and gets a bunch of.
So I have to code.
Yes. I mean, if you want features that are not in the out of the box, you can code, and that's the whole point of it being open source on the front end, that you can. So see, this is basically the service call for the load report, and you can do a loop to get as many reports as you need, and you can run them in a loop. That's exactly what the dashboard does, and then it outputs it over here. Okay, so did anybody have another question, or?
So how do you have a dev version, production version, how do you push?
So it would basically be the same thing that you would, you know what? Okay, so you can when you actually sign up for the account, you can create as many database connections as you need. So if you have two or three databases or different environments, you can create schemas in different environments here. So so that could be one way. There are definitely different ways to achieve that. If you want to set it up in a dev environment first and then the production environment. Basically, the way, again, what it does is the service just returns a SQL statement and you run it on your end. So what you could do is you could use the dev connection string over here, dev database connection string over here, and then, once you're ready to move to production, you can.
If you use this feature to set up out of the box a few reports, you want developers to work on it.
Right.
Push them into production environment.
Right.
So we don't want the reports to be going out as soon as I add it to this account.
Right.
I don't want to see them. I don't want to expand to see them.
Right.
Can I restrict when a particular report is available for a few clients and
so, right, that makes perfect sense. Now I understand your question. So a couple of ways again to do it would be, one is if you set it up on a different database connection, then it won't show up for till you use that database connections API key. So every database has its own API key, and whatever grid you use, it's going to only show reports for that particular one. So that's one way to achieve it. The other one would just simply have an account for dev environment and the account for production environment. There is really nothing built in, but it's a good point. We can come up with ways to do it on the front end if you need to add that code. But that functionality doesn't exist out of the box.
Can I print multiple copies and have them routed by email?
That functionality is not there right now. But again, just like I said, that it returns a SQL statement, you can, code that in the front end. So that's why, you have a lot of different possibilities. Of course, we can't code every single thing, but
so you can. The user can't. This is meant for the developer,
right?
Who gets something basic to something simple and basic, and then has to do all the coding.
No, I mean it comes. Like I said, it comes with a lot of out of the box features for the end users. Like the dashboard is there, the report filters are there, the grouping is there. The grouping has a lot of different options in it where you can. But if you have a feature that doesn't exist, then you would have to code it. But for most cases, where you're doing some basic group reporting and you're doing some chart reporting, like the server-side paging and all, if you want to filter by time, so that all is all built in. But you're asking about some features that do not exist, and then yes, you would have to code that. But if your requirements are, for features that already exist, then of course you won't have to do any coding on it.
Well, let's be honest, most of the reports that we need to do.
Right, most of them do exactly what this is, right? Where you just simply add a few filters for this year, for last year, or last month. You have sales figures you need to do, so you can quickly go into and.
And keep in mind too that these are reports that you set this up and then you let your end users
in
build their
most
own damn reports.
Exactly in most real world scenarios, the main thing that the developer has to do is come in here and select the schemas that you want to expose to the end user, right? Which tables and which columns you want to expose to the end user. What do you want to name them? Like for example, product ID. You don't want the user to see product ID. You want to, maybe, and that's the best I could come up with.
Right? You do it with a view.
Product identification.
Yeah, product identification or something else. You can set up which type of database field it is if it doesn't pick the right one from the. So this is really what the end developer, the developer mostly has to do to set it up. And once this is configured, the front end is just out of the box and the user creates their own reports. That's the whole concept.
From my perspective, right, most of the reports on here is the kind of crap that end users will fill your day with that just makes you want to
exactly
bang your head against a wall.
Right, and then they always say, okay, I just want one more field in there.
To develop each one of these individually a little on the boring side.
Right, and then managing it, you have to add one new column in there, so you don't have to go and update the stored procedure or something. It would just happen.
So speaking of stored procedures, can this call into stored procedures?
So it cannot call into stored procedure, but it brings in views. So you can set up a SQL view and save a view, and then it would show up here where you can select it and you can set it up that way.
Are there any features around authorization and entitlement?
No, so authorization, the only thing is where it assumes that you have your own login mechanism, and then you pass in the user ID and the client ID from your cookies. So that's where the authentication comes in, and then it would save it only for that user.
Did you cover what databases this supports?
So this supports Microsoft SQL, and it also supports MySQL. We have a package for MySQL code also.
But it's ODBC.
But yeah, it uses ODBC. So the code that actually executes the SQL statement is right here. So you can technically connect any database. But the SQL that comes back, you have to tweak it. Like there is a package for MySQL, so it changes the syntax to support MySQL.
So it always gives back insert.
Yes, it just returns back Microsoft SQL statement.
So in our scenario, we need filtering data entitlements by user or
Yes.
every user has access to the report, but the data he gives them is dynamic based on the user who logs in. So how does that work?
So
I have customers in south, north, east, west.
Right.
I don't want south people to see anything about east. So how does that?
So-
basically data entitlements.
Right. So usually, that is one way to solve that problem. Is it's similar to what you're talking about, is where you have multiple companies. Like let's say you have 10 different companies. They all use the same schema, but there's a company ID that they want to use. So that's what the company ID column is for. Client ID, actually it's called client ID here, but that's for multi-tenant client ID. So you can, whoever's logged in, they would have I'm assuming that they would have a company ID or a client ID that you can pass in here.
But that's
and
for
then,
the access to the reports, right?
right, no, but then when you're setting up the database, you can, for every table, there is a field that you can define, where is the, I think it's on the other one. So there is a field that you can define which every report would get filtered on. Yeah, what about that? Okay, so when you set up, oh, this is not it. Okay. I understand your question, what you're talking about, and there is a mechanism built in for it. Okay, so when you define a table, you can also define an account ID field, and then every time it runs the report or it returns the SQL statement, it automatically adds the filter for that field in every single SQL statement that you get.
That's the client ID.
So that would be the client ID filter, yes.
Interface with the client ID.
Yes. Yes, so every table you're assuming that there's a company ID or a client ID in that table, so you define that, okay, what's the name of that? It could be account ID or it could be client ID or company ID, and then every report that you get back, it would automatically filter it by that client so that, the shared data doesn't get seen by other people. Does that make sense? Yeah.
But security, what if the user doesn't have access to the same table?
Right, again, the assumption is that, you're gonna set it up in a way where if a SQL statement is returning some tables, you would be able to execute a run command on it.
But you can do after a certain time, might take data that the normal user, how do you handle that?
So a manager should be able to see more data than a normal user. How do we manage that?
Okay, that's, I think, something that we don't have outside of the box, and again, that's where custom coding comes in, that you can apply whatever you need to on the front-end code.
What sort of, if we look to buy, would we be able to see your roadmap on changes?
I use VSTS to do that, to track out what the new features and stuff are. I haven't had to publicly share it with anybody yet, but we can definitely do that. Sure. It's all on VSTS.
I don't know if you want to tell John that.
Just my sales plug is we would like to share it and we would like to get your feedback on it. We are getting feedback from customers on some of the additions we're making to the tool. So
People ask for too many
pipeline
things
helps.
all the time. Like,
If you,
isn't this
if it
enough?
helps you to see the pipeline, give us more
No.
information what we should do.
Never. But wait, there's more. There's more.
There's one.
Yeah.
I'm not knocking it, I'm just curious.
No, definitely.
I mean, I'm hanging my fanny on.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, there are lots of other little things that are built into the system that we can, I don't know how much time we want to go over it, but I think we're kind of ready to wrap it up.
If I tried the free version, I would get a taste of what the.
Yes. And again, like,
So
we
what
want
features
to.
does the paid version have? That
There is no feature restriction with absolutely the features are all there. It's just the number of API, and it's really the on-prem is what we try to charge for. But we're doing this meeting, you guys are here. If you guys really need to use it, we'd be happy to come up with and like I said, the front end is completely open source. I mean, we're looking for users and who's.
On-premise, you'll charge for the I mean, not the plus you charge by API. So, like for example, as a developer, or even when introducing my company, I say.
Yeah, it really just depends on company to company what the requirements are.
Implementation packs, what we've seen so far, customer that's serious will contact us, and then they will download the free version. They'll connect it to their database and they'll run it, and we'll give them more than the minimum API. But when you get the free version, it's 150 API calls a month. But we give them more for a testing phase, and when they like it, then they.
Yeah, it's really, we make it unlimited for whoever wants to use it, and then,
The main difference between enterprise and premium is that the enterprise tool lets you have the service on premises, and you get unlimited API calls, unlimited database connections, unlimited free distribution to your.
But the main goal of this meeting was the demonstration was to show you guys how the architecture is and how the front end is completely open. And if you can write your own backend service, I mean, you can use the front end. Just, it's not very, it's like you can kind of figure it out what it's doing. It's just, you don't want to do all that work, right? That's what it's for. But
on like dollar amounts, can you change the masking on it?
Yes. It automatically does the dollar masking and all that, but yeah, you can change it, yes.
Oh, I have to program to change it.
No. It automatically has that in there.
There's something in the.
Yes.
What format is this? Are they all same SSRS format or?
No. So the reports are just saved in SQL database. Like, it's just, when you edit this report, and it builds a JSON, so you can actually put a breakpoint and see what JSON it's sending to the service.
These reports are stored on the cloud or?
No, the saved reports are all on the cloud. It's only the executed query that comes back that you.
Okay, so to understand, you've got,
Let me put a breakpoint here and show you.
you got the server side stuff that I sent, I get back the SQL from.
Yes.
In other words, I send something up, it makes SQL, sends it back to me, runs it in the open source front end.
Yes. This is the minified version, but we can still.
On my computer.
The only thing there is.
So I can put a breakpoint here where the AJAX call gets called to the run report to the service, right? And if I hit save, so you see, all it's doing is basically sending this. It calls this method called report build data, and it's basically just JSON. So see, this is what it sends to the service. That this is your report ID, these are the function lists, the different features you selected.
The front end, when you're defining the report, that's part of the open source.
The front end is open source, yes.
I mean, when I said front end, that's you showed me where I picked the fields.
Yes, that's all open source too, yes. It's completely in your control. But see, so that's all it's sending. It sends you, these are the list of fields that are there, and then what group you're applying to it, whether you're applying count. And this all gets saved into a SQL database. And,
So, do you have any kind of, if I want to do tracing and auditing of what reports, what users ran at what time, Is that something that's baked in, or would I have to add that?
No, that's in there. So like every call that we get, it gets logged, and I don't think anybody's asked for it, but I mean, if you want to, we can
It's pretty,
give you access.
that could be common.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that's all I had to present to you guys. Thank you so much for.
Thank you for joining us for the July 2018 meeting of the Houston.net Users Group. Our next meeting will be on August 9th at the Improving Houston office at 10111 Richmond Avenue, and our featured speaker will be Tony Champions. If you happen to be in Houston then, or on any second Thursday, we'd love for you to join us.